Buen día, buenas tardes, good morning, good afternoon for you two, my friends from Calgary and from Eugene, and me talking from Richmond. Like always, thanks again for being here. And today we are gonna play a little bit. You two have the requirements and the guidelines for this game / discussion. And what we are trying to do, first of all, is valuing and thinking on the players that play in the center channel, like Elijah and probably also Gabriel play in that time. The players that probably determine more of what happens in the actual game. And so we are gonna choose 5 of those players: un portero, one goalie, one center back, 2 center mids, one more defensive, one more offensive, and one forward. And we are going to narrow the competition today to 5 players born in Europe, right? See? Okay.
Yep.
5 players born in Europe who play in those positions, who are still active, and with the conditions that neither of you can choose more than one player from one nationality and more than one player from the same team. Correct? Yeah? Okay.
Correct.
So the way to start, oh yeah, and then I am going to be the one deciding based on your arguments if you want to argue for it, and kind of assessing the players based on talent, the importance for the game, and then based on the importance of that player for the team and how much he won as part of a team. So we are looking also for players that are winners. Sounds good?
Sounds
Gracias.
good.
Okay, tengo una moneda, ¿de acuerdo? I have a coin, and one of you is going to be face, one of you is going to be the other thing. So, Elijah, because he's the younger, what do you want, the face or the other thing?
The face.
The face, vale, vamos a ver. Okay, the face. Lo sé, Gabriel, salió la cara. It is the face. So the first selection goes for Elijah, and you can choose any player in one of those positions, and then Gabriel will do his choice as well.
And am I Europe or South America?
We are doing Europe. Yeah, Europe versus Europe.
So first one Europe, then I have to choose Cristiano.
Okay, that means that, yeah, that looks like a decision. That means that Gabriel needs a forward. Which
I
one?
do the same. Ibrahimovic.
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
Vale. Now you keep going, Elijah.
I choose. Oh, it's not easy, huh?
Well, guess what? Now I think Gabriel choose the next one, so it's more
So it's more fair. It's more fair. Yeah.
Thank you, Elijah. Thank you. Okay, you go, Gabriel.
My turn.
Sí.
My attacking mid is Thomas Müller.
Okay, I got it. Okay, Müller. Vale, Müller, attacking mid. So one attacking mid for you, Elijah.
And I will go with Iniesta.
Iniesta from
Barca.
Okay, remember. And Cristiano is from
Real Madrid.
Real Madrid, and Barca already taken for Elijah. Iniesta and Bayern Munich. And what team for Ibrahimovic, Gabriel? I didn't ask you.
Say that again. The Ibrahimovic.
Yeah, what Barcelona?
The first Milan.
Milan, vale. Okay, all right. So now your turn again, Elijah.
I will choose with this one. I will go with Jerome Boateng for Bayern.
For center back, right?
Center back, yeah.
Ooh. Center back for you, Gabriel.
Varane from Madrid.
Okay. So just checking, we have Portugal, Spain, and Germany for Elijah, and we have Sweden, Germany, and France for Gabriel. Muy bien. It's your turn again, right, Gabriel?
Yeah. Defensive mid, Busquets.
That's tough. I will have to choose. And we'll go with N'Golo
I
Kante.
like Busquets a lot, I think, right?
My favorite in the world, my favorite ever. So it's tough, but I had to choose Iniesta. I will go with N'Golo Kante.
Kante, okay, yeah. And so France, vale. And Chelsea, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and porteros, goalies. What do we have?
¿Voy yo? ¿O el
Yeah.
otro? ¿O el Elijah?
No, va Elijah, sorry. Elijah.
For
Vale,
me,
vale.
then I will go with Gigi Buffon,
Buffon from
Juventus.
Juve, yeah, of course. And Italy. Portugal, Italy, Germany, France, Germany, France, Spain for Elijah. And you, Gabriel?
I have Oblak here.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Oof. I like this competition.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah. Oblak is Slovenia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So let's start with the goalies. So very briefly, tell me why you think Fon, in terms of talent, team wins, and importance for the game, it is a better choice than Oblak. So Elijah.
Well, I think if we talk in terms of talent, I think while Oblak is an amazing shot stopper, I think Buffon has come to define what shot stopping is. And I think another good thing about Buffon is most of his highlights, he doesn't always have to make the save that's spectacular. Because I think positionally, he's brilliant and he plays with calmness that exudes throughout the whole team. So I think that's a massive thing. And then I think in terms of the talent as well, it's one thing to have 3-4 seasons of talent at a high level, which we've seen, but I think to do that for 15 years at the highest level. So we've seen that in Italy in terms of year after year, to show that level and to perform like that, I think that it's impossible to replicate. Then when we talk about wins, in terms of the amount of titles he's won in the league, I think in his career, it's almost every other season that he wins a league title. So I think that just goes to show for itself. And he got to the World Cup final, didn't win, but I think it's just as important and it's just as tough to get to the World Cup final in 2006. And then also for importance, I think what he does for us is he makes us believe in loyalty in football, because when Juve was relegated to Serie B, he stayed and then went back with them, got them back into Serie A. And a player in his position at that time with the fame, the level that he'd been playing at, he could have easily left. So I think that's also, it just goes to show that in this day and age where money is usually the most important thing in football, that there's loyalty and class that shows to that young kids that's important as well. So that's the basis for my argument.
Gabriel.
I agree with Elijah. Oblak is more of the modern keeper. I think he does things that Buffon never did, but experience goes against Oblak. So I think Buffon makes more sense. But Oblak does offer something that Buffon doesn't offer, which is I think he plays better with his feet. I think he's has a bigger presence than Buffon does, which allows his team to play the way they do. But again, I think I'm basing it's more on potential. Am I supposed to argue the same player or no?
No, yeah, you just have to defend Oblak.
I can't defend him.
Okay, punto para Buffon.
Ahí está. Yeah.
To me, honestly, I think for Elias' argument, I like the argument about love for the game when the team was relegated to Serie B. I think that it's important and it's very meaningful. But on the other side, and that's where I think Oblak has something to do, or there is way to defend Oblak in the sense that Buffon has played with Juve in Italy, and the fact that they have consistently win the league, it means that consistently they were superior, regardless of Buffon, probably. Instead, for Oblak, Atletico Madrid has never been the best team in the league. He's also part of a smaller country in terms of nationality. So the fact that he's highlighted as maybe the best keeper in the world, it means a lot for him. And
His potential is good, but I don't think that stands against the
Yeah.
experience.
in terms to how to just kind of balance them. Okay, punto para Buffon y Elaya y su equipo.
Vale.
Okay, you wanna defend now your center back, Varane, Gabriel?
Yeah, proven winner, has always been in the shadow of Sergio Ramos, but I think has done exceptionally well competing at the same level. I think he individually matches up, makes it harder for individual matchups because of his physicality. He's done it for his national team like Ramos has. He's done it with his club team like Ramos has. So he has very similar accolades, yet doesn't get all the spotlight because of his center back partner, his other center back. I think he, in terms of what he brings to his national team, I think he keeps the tradition of, like we've in previous conversation have talked about, French center backs like Desailly. I thought he kind of steps into that role very well. I think he is a combination also of finesse mixed with physicality. And I also think that can go against him as well, because I think he's smarter than other people see him. I think he's an intelligent center back that just happens to be stuck in a bigger body, but can read the game just as well as a smaller center back that doesn't use the physicality piece as much. So I think that's all in one. If a team were to play against him, I think he is more of a threat, or he is less attractive to form a game plan around if you're going against him as a rival, because of what I think he brings more to the table. The only thing he doesn't bring is that Ramos does, I think, is leadership. I think there's something about him, number one, being French and not playing in France, but now being in Spain. I think it's hard to take the Spanish captain and say, "Oh, sorry, this is my team." So I think he's taking on that role well, but that's the one thing I don't think he really has the opportunity to do at Real Madrid, because he's taking it from the Spanish national team captain. But I think one day he will be that player. And I think the goal scoring piece, he doesn't do as much as Ramos, but he also doesn't get as many red cards. So you take it how you want it.
Yeah. Okay. How do you manage that, Elijah?
I mean, I like Brand too. Why I've gone with Boateng is because I think in terms of success, again, he's one of those players that maybe because he doesn't, I don't know, it's almost like people forget that he's had 7-8 years at the highest level, tons of success. So national team, he's a World Cup winner. He's won the German league. And I know people have things to say about the level of competition in the German league, but at the end of the day, as a footballer, you still have to go out and win and perform. So he's won it, I think, 6 or 7 times. So in terms of success in the level, what I also like about him is at Bayern, he had to play under Heinkes, and then he made the transition to Guardiola, which is completely different. And I think that shows his level of intelligence and his ability to make the switch from Heinkes at the highest level, where they won everything, set records, and they did the treble, to the next year, complete change, and then to be a big player for Guardiola as well. And then once Guardiola left, to still keep that level high. So I think that shows his intelligence. And I think in terms of his ability, I think we saw my favorite version of him when he was at Bayern with Guardiola. He had that the long pass to the opposite winger. So I think his ability, and to do that consistently on the world stage, he's won Champions League. His success speaks for himself. I also like him in terms of that he's been part of a successful team, like I said. And then in terms of importance, I think he's just a presence. I think he's somebody that I like him in the media. He's a cool person. I think he has a good following around him, and I think it's tough to compare him to Varane because in terms of the only thing separating them really is the Champions League. But I think with Boateng, I also like him being in one of the first maybe prominent black German footballers. I know there were some other ones before, but I think that's also another positive thing. But besides that, I just think I like that he's played at a high level, different managers, he's had success, and he's intelligent as well. And I think as well, in terms of attributes to play against, he's like Varane in the sense that he's rapid, like really he's a lot of pace. He's strong, and he's had to play under Guardiola, like where you defend high up the pitch. So to defend all that space 1-against-1 isn't easy, but he was able to adapt. So I like him for that sense.
Yeah. Wow.
He did it with broken ankles too. Ever since Messi broke his ankles.
People get recognized too bad for moments. It's a shame. People get remembered for moments too bad.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah.
Okay. I promise I'm not gonna base my decision on that picture, but on that moment. Well, yeah. I really appreciate how much thought you are giving me with these two players especially, because I definitely like two or three important things have been nailed by you two, and one of the topics I wanna talk, it was about players that are not much appreciated, and myself with Varane, I think I have been caught into that trap a little bit. And in the beginning of his career, he was consistently just getting injured, but not anymore. It's been just quite a few years that he's been very consistent. And I think Gabriel has a lot of good points in the sense that we forget about him. And I do agree with Gabriel that, if a coach is putting a game plan, you don't want to go on his side. You understand that Ramos is the one that is going to free that role and he's going to have more freedom to do other things because that's the way he interprets the games. And instead, Varane is going to have to cover a lot of that. But I also like what Elijah has remembered us in terms of being a leader for a team. There is more to say, and I want to talk about that in further pieces about being a black German player. So it has to do also with maturity and responsibility. Now, all that said, I think Varane is slightly ahead. But it's very close, and I like them both, and I love your argument. So it's 1-1, punto para el equipo de Gabriel.
I like Varane too. He's a good player.
Yeah,
I like him.
Thanks. Elijah, center mid?
Tough to argue against Busquets, but
yeah.
with Kante, I think, so if we talk about Kante at Chelsea, we talk about success. So he won the league, and I think that was important in his first season. The difference that he made to the team, especially because he was playing next to Fabregas. And we know the qualities of Fabregas, an amazing passer, he can control the game. But I think what people say about Kante speaks for itself. So when he won the World Cup with France, Pogba, all these players, they praise the importance because the role that he does, it's not as pretty as a Busquets or other people that play that position more with the ball. But the amount of ground that he covers, his ability to keep the ball is also understated because he's not a passer that provokes a lot or tries to create chances, but he keeps the ball for his team under pressure. He protects the ball well. And I think that's a skill that people don't realize is a tough skill, especially when you're getting pressed. Again, him at Chelsea, Fabregas is one of the slowest players, one of the most talented, most intelligent. But at the end of the day, when you're playing with two central midfielders and one of them is slow and doesn't like to move a lot, Kante almost has to do double the work defensively. So for him to do that and no complaints, and then for them to have the success and then to praise his influence, I think that's another amazing thing. And then what I like about him in terms of success is on international stage, he won the World Cup and he won the Premier League. And at the time as well, when he won the Premier League, it was Guardiola's first season in there. Liverpool was still there. So Premier League is one of the toughest competitions because the level of competition is spread out a lot. So for him to go in and make such a big difference right away, and I think he's one of those players that you recognize how good he is when he's not playing. So you feel the absence, you feel the lack of energy in midfield, you feel that you can't play on the front foot because he's one of those people that helps others around him, by example, play on the front foot. So And I also think in terms of importance for the game, I like how humble he is, how down to earth he is. Because another one of those games, the modern game is more about people's brand and their image. And he's one that doesn't really have a brand or an image. He's just known for being a good footballer and what he does. And I think in terms that why I like him as a player is that most of the good defensive midfielders these days are good passers and they control the game. But he's somebody that's been able to have success doing playing that role in his own way. And I think that's important as well.
Well said. Right?
Agreed.
Busi.
I'll try to do this without talking about all the winning that he's been a part of. But I think he's one of the only players that I can remember in maybe forever that has had so much influence in his team's success, up to when he started with Barca up to now. If you remove him from any starting lineup or with the national team, but mostly with Barca, I've never seen so much change or influence from one player on a team that isn't a goal scorer. And I think he is playing with, let's go back to the most classic Barca team. If you remove him from that team, I don't know if they have as much success as they had. I think he was had that pivotal of a role on that team, and that influential of a role. And if you remove Messi, if you remove whoever else, Alexis Sanchez from back then, if you remove any of the players he's played with, I don't know if Barca take as much of a hit with success, production, whatever you want to call it. I think he also revolutionized the position. I think in the past we typically have used that position for players that are physically imposing and can run all over the place and are strong. And I think you have a tall, skinny guy that doesn't always bring the physicality piece that that we expect from a Premier League holding mid. I think he. Sorry. He is a tall, skinny kid that, with his vision and awareness, influences games more than maybe a physical specimen that wins the balls out of the air, that tackles hard. I think he does all of that mentally and doesn't have to put himself in those situations because he sees it before it happens. He anticipates better than most players have anticipated in the last 20 years. And that is why I think when you remove him, it is almost an impossible job to replace a player like that has such high anticipation ability, has so much vision and awareness that a lot of the time goes, I wouldn't say ignored, but doesn't draw as much attention because of the goal scoring and the big moment players on that team. Not to say Messi's just a big moment player or Luis Suarez is, but he is the spine of that team all the way through. And Barca's team will always, the Pep years, those will always be considered classic teams and top teams, maybe the top team that we've ever seen. And I think he was the one that orchestrated a lot of the success on those teams. And that should not be ignored because I think he does get lost sometimes with, the names like Xavi, the playmakers that also played with him. So, he's won everything. He's won he's won at the club level, Champions League. He's won at the national team level. So I'm not going to use that because I think a lot of those guys that played on those club teams have won it like that and won with their national teams. But he was special because he was just so different. And it became, I want to be Busquets instead of being, a big physical, fast, knock you down, win the ball type of player, which up to that point, I think was what a lot of teams and clubs look for. And he changed that position. And he isn't a little player that's super technical, that's just passing the ball left, right. He does it in a big, strong, like a string bean. And he gets it done better than a lot of those players too. And he has to defend players a lot of the time like that too. So it's impressive. for the the frame he does it in. Come on. I know.
Pobrecito.
Yo tengo. Yeah.
Paul, yeah, okay.
Tengo problema, lo siento.
Yeah, I think after listening to you both, I think a couple of things, but I think we should dedicate one piece to Busquets, probably. And maybe the role of the midfielder, but also just only a piece to Busquets. Because I don't know if he revolutionized the position, but definitely he changes how the position was interpreted. And not just him, of course, the coaches, but I completely agree with that. And I mean, if Elia has such a praise and admiration for him, also considering that Elia plays in that position, of course, I'm sure he can add a lot. So I think we should do a little bit of a piece about him because of many of the things that Gabriel was mentioning. And I do need to go with Busquets in this. And I think one of the things that you cannot teach, and it's what is in your head. Of course, it depends on other things, but that is the irreplaceable piece. And his ability to anticipate plays, the plays that we don't see in the camera, because the camera is somewhere else. And the slides, steps that you take to get to those places sooner than anyone else are just incredible. So yeah, because of Busquets, we can talk about other things as well. Amateurism, what you actually need to play the game, and the impact he had with Guardiola, and how Guardiola just moved him from one place to another. Kind of, and this is where it also gets very interesting, kind of what happened with him when he was with Cruyff. Because Guardiola was slow, Guardiola could not score, Guardiola could not jump. Busi is bigger and all that, but he's very slow. So, and I only want to say one thing about both of them. Nonetheless, I think there is one question around both of them, which is how are they actually able to play with different systems, with different coaches? I think with Sarri, Kante had a little bit of an adjustment period. Probably Busi can play with other coaches, but you know he has been and he's going to be all his life in FC Barcelona. So I think with both of them, probably we can just think a little bit more about that. But especially with Busquets, because we are never going to see that. He's going to stay there, I think, forever. So I got to give the point to Busquets, but also thank you, because that was very thoughtful and give me more ideas. And also, I want to have all the points of Elia about his Busquets admiration. Sounds good? Yeah? Okay, so Gabriel's team goes 2-1, and he goes with Müller against Iniesta. So, how do you feel Müller? Go con el alemán ahora. You win this one, you win the game. Sorry, go.
No. Again, another proven winner.
Mm-hmm.
Not your prototypical playmaker body, but is I think he is a player that is, I don't know if people give him enough credit for his ability to read space, find space, sort of the attacking anticipation. I think he is one of the best at doing that. I think it's different from types like Iniesta, like other playmakers that maybe provide the pass. I think he finds the spaces, which makes him a little bit more like a hybrid, maybe like a forward and which he's played, but also as a playmaker. And I think it's he plays a unique role where he can do both. And he's not just a playmaker or he's not just a forward. I think he does both, but it's really the anticipation of finding spaces and finding ways to score goals and finding ways to help his team win. And he's done that over and over and over again with his national team, winning World Cup, and then with Bayern, and providing just that consistency all the time. I think he's fantastic at reading balls out of the air. I think he's has a presence to him. He's not the loudest player. He's an annoying player, but he has a quality about him where he almost seems like the guy that you have that you rely on. He has that ability. He has that piece where I think other players are confident in what he's capable of doing. So he fills the void of maybe just a goal scorer that doesn't always provide. And I feel like he always provides, whether it's getting somebody into space or him doing the job himself. And I don't see many players out there that are able to do both. I think there's players that can do one thing very good, whether they're great passers, great finishers. But I think he's one of our generation, in the last 10, 15 years, where he does both and he wins. And I think, and he does it. And again, I think he's physically not at the same level as a lot of the true goal scorers or the true playmakers. I think he's just kind of a freak of nature because he doesn't have all those qualities. Yeah. And he has to rely, like Busi has to rely on his brain. Mm-hmm. And so at the end of the day, you got to reward the brainy players that also are capable of providing for their team and also winning. And, I think it's a big deal. I also feel like with the German national team, he also helped create a culture of winning. And because I know they went through they have a new generation of players. And I think he influenced the German national team into success. I think he's one of those players where if you remove him from the German national team, there's not as much success.
Yeah. I think him kind of embodies a little bit of a change of the Germany national team of this last generation that ended up winning the World Cup in terms of mentality.
Yeah.
The team that the Spains in 08 beat, the team led by Ballack, Schweinsteiger, they didn't make that leap. But the team, Müller, Boateng, Philipp Lahm, it was more of imposing. And I think, as you said, that Müller have a lot to do with that.
Mentality. Yeah. I'm not the biggest supporter. I never liked his teams because I always knew I didn't like the teams. I don't like the teams he plays for, but I always knew they were going to win when he was on the field because if it was a tie game or a situation where he had to emerge, he always emerged. And it always made me like, oh, but you have to respect it. You have to respect it. And he's done it for years. And that's what puts him above some of the rest, I think.
And it's what you say about him and the position and all this, it's debatable. Is he an offensive midfielder? Is he a forward?
Sure.
But when you read the books of Per Arnaus, the second one or the first one, both of them, in Guardiola's time in Bayern Munich, there are a couple of chapters probably or pieces where Per Arnaus mentioned the difficulty for the coaching staff to understand where he was going to be more influential. Like they stay like a couple of weeks. Okay, he's going to play as an 8, no, as a 10. No, as a forward, no, as a 9.5. Okay, just let it play. And he will figure it out. That was, I think, basically what they were just, he just has to play and he will figure it out. Which it doesn't work for 95% of the players, but for some special players, it's probably the best way. Okay, just do what is necessary and then he will find a way. It reminds me a little bit, and I'm going with you now, Elijah, in a different way, but it reminds me to Raul. And he's forward because he was like, what is he? Doesn't matter. He's always going to be there. He's always going to score. He's always going to make it happen. He's not the fastest. He's not the strongest, but he's going to make it. And it's just German, but I think it's a version similar. And the winner, and just it happened one day and the day after and the day after. Iniesta, Elijah.
I think Iniesta, I mean, what more can we say about him? So, like you said with Busquets, a winner, but I think the best thing about Iniesta, and I only think there's certain players that are like this, is there's some players that just watching them, even if their team's losing, whatever, make you feel something. So you go to the stadium, you're on TV, and you just watch Iniesta, and it's almost like you just feel something like, how can this guy be this good? I think also what I appreciate about him is that, in a sense, Barcelona needed him because he's the difference between him, Xavi, and Busquets is he's the one that provokes more with the dribble. And I think in terms of how talented he is, that speaks for itself. Just the things that he can do with the ball. And what I like about him is that his dribbling looks simple and effortless. So you look at people like Neymar, where it looks more fancy and tricky, but Iniesta makes you realize the game doesn't have to be complicated. You just need to actually master the fundamentals of dribbling. And I think he's just another one of those players, national team, club team. He's had such an influence. What I think separates him from Muller as well is that Muller almost is he needs to have the space and the team so he can be effective. He needs a structure around him. Where you look at Iniesta, and you could argue to an extent that for Barcelona as well, but I think Iniesta will always find a way to impose himself on the game with the ball. And I think just how he does that, how he interprets space as well in his own way, because what I think is amazing about him is him playing on the wing, him playing centrally. It's almost as if he has the same impact. It doesn't matter. And I think he's just one of those players that football is less beautiful because he's not playing. And I think that's his biggest impact. You just watching him inspires people, and it inspires the team. And I think he's one of those players. There's certain players that if you're playing bad, you want them to get on the ball because it brings the confidence back to the team. And I think that, in a sense, because he's not a loud guy, he's not an imposing guy, he doesn't do a lot of media, things like that. But I think those players that when the going's tough and they want the ball, I think that is one of those things that for the rest of the team is like, wow, we have to play now. So with Iniesta, it's almost like a work of art watching him. And that's, for me, like, how many players can you really say you just enjoy watching? And I think that's because you can argue that him and Muller, in terms of success, around the same. But I think, who would you rather watch? And some people may choose Muller, but I genuinely think at the end of the day, we have to remember football is a game of entertainment. So when you watch Iniesta, you have to admit that you're blown away, you're just entertained, and he's one of the most graceful players. And I think that's something that we have to appreciate, the success, but be able to do it in his own way, and just have that level of impact on the national team. And the goal in the World Cup final, I think that moment for Spanish football fans will forever live on in the memory. So, or the 2010, sorry, I think that will forever live on in the memory. So that's all I can say about it.
You guys are awesome. I am enjoying this so much. It's funny that Elijah goes now with, I love it. I love it that you free yourself and talk about how much he makes you feel, and to Gabriel and to me and to others as well.
Yeah.
And I think, we are also talking about things that are not tangible. It might be on how to read the game, how to interpret the game, how to affect the game, but also how to affect others that are outside of the game. So I think that's why we are talking about these things, right? So I love that you are just going into that direction and not going now into, he won this, which is what Gabriel did also, especially with Busquets. And I think that, and also here we have another road to go, like players that inspire others, that probably have make us continue with the game, continue playing now for Elijah, continue coaching or going around for Gabriel and me. And I think that's enough. That's enough because it is concrete. As far as we understand this, it is concrete for us. So I'm gonna go with Iniesta because I like that Elijah went in that direction and he's not trying to say, okay, he won 10 pieces from here and 5 from there, because it is concrete. Again, all that thing it means a lot for all of us. And then as you said, the picture and the image of Iniesta scoring that goal, for my unfinished thesis, that was the front page of the thesis, basically. And that was a moment that changed the life of every Spaniard. A moment that, you can ask to a Spaniard, where were you the moment in which Iniesta hit that ball and put it in there? So, but more than that, the difference is not a lot, but also we are 2-2, so we go into the final round. But I'm going to say this. It might look that Cristiano has an advantage, but Elijah went for who is the one inspired others, you said that it's like a work of art. For me, as a work of art, I like Ibrahimovic more than Cristiano, Elijah. So you have to prove this one. So 2-2. Last round, Elijah. You go first.
I think it's impossible to speak about Cristiano without speaking about goals. I think he's made his career off that. That's what he believes. So what I like about him is that he revolutionized goal scoring and what it means to be a goal scorer. So if we're talking about Ronaldo at Madrid, it's goals, and the desire to score goals. I think that's important because especially the type of player, the transition that I think the best thing about him is for the transition from him at Manchester United and the type of player he was to who he was at Madrid shows a level of maturity that is so that you will rarely see a player switch that drastically in a career, because that shows that you've seen that your previous ways are ineffective, and now to have that change and to then be rewarded for that, I think that shows a level of intelligence that people may not associate with him, since he's more known for the amount of work that he spends honing his craft. And then in terms of Ronaldo and how he influenced, I think it's important that now that for most people, if it wasn't for Ronaldo, it'd be a given that Messi's the best player of all time. And the fact that somebody is able to rival Messi and actually have a proper conversation about who is better and who you prefer, I think that says a lot for itself, because Messi is, for me, the best of all time, and that's just how I see it. But I think for there to be somebody else that can have an actual claim to be better and to be in that discussion and to match the level of success, to match the level of achievement, I think that speaks for itself. And then I think it's important when we talk about inspiring people like Messi, Ronaldo, why they're different is they don't inspire, they're almost like a religion. So if you see people, like if you go and you talk to a Ronaldo fan and you say you like Messi, it's almost like a fight, because the way the success he's had in his career and all that he's done has made people so it's given them such an emotional attachment to him that it's tough to change that. And I think why I like Ronaldo too is that his message in terms of just keep on working, do the most, like his stories about coming late after a game and then going into ice bath when everyone else is going home. I think that's inspired people across different sports and in all aspects of life. And I think that because Messi and other people, even Zlatan to an extent, they're not as known for that, and it's not as well put out there. I think with Ronaldo, because of how big he is and how global he is, he's able to influence and impact more people. And I just think in terms of ability, like that's there's no question about that. We can't deny the ability that he has. I think that he's done everything. You think about players always give you, like the best players always give you iconic moments. And with Ronaldo, there's tons. I think about the World Cup most previously, 2014, the hat trick against Spain, moments like that where you're just like astounded. And then the last thing is that in terms of the level that he's played at consistently, so in terms of how he's been able to prove people wrong, that he's still scoring goals at 35, he's been doing it for 18 years, the long that he's been able to sustain his career. I think with Cristiano, it's tough to argue against the fact that he's been at that level and that elite level above even the comparison. Now, when we talk about Ronaldo, it's not the Brazilian Ronaldo anymore. And I think that's tough because he'll always have one, but the fact that he's been able to rival Messi and the Brazilian Ronaldo in terms of name, achievements, and everything, I think that says a lot for itself. So that's what I'd have to say about Cristiano.
Gabriel.
I think.
Go for it.
Okay. Before Ronaldo, there was Ibrahimovic, who was scoring the same type of goals, was the same type of player. And I wonder, had he not had issues with Guardiola, with Barca, and he played for that team, how would we talk about Ibrahimovic? Because there's no doubt in my mind that he would have continued to score goals the way he scores goals. He is probably, if you think of a handful of players right now that are natural goal scorers, he has to be in that conversation with Messi and Ronaldo when it comes to scoring goals, when it comes to keeping that level consistent. I think he's in that conversation still in his prime. I think the type of goals he scores are right there with Cristiano and Messi. I think he has creative goals, eye-opening goals. I don't think he played on teams that allowed him to score those goals in big moments because he never played with Real Madrid or Barca in their best moments and were in the big finals or those big games. But had he been there, and I don't like hypothetical questions, but I think he might have made us think different about who he is now. I think a lot of people knock him for his arrogance, which Cristiano has, but Ibra had it first. Cristiano would have never played for that Barca team because Guardiola would have kicked him off that team. Instead, it was Ibrahimovic who did it because he's, 5 years older? So he was there. He took the hit and he left, so that team had success. But I think he's one of those players like Cristiano, like Messi, where you put him anywhere on any club and he will produce, period. And he's proven that. Yeah. He's won league titles with his teams everywhere he goes, except for the Galaxy. But I don't think he's taken a few different steps than Cristiano and Messi, and I think in the end that's hurt him because he's never found himself with those classic teams that we all know and think of when it comes to Champions League finals or whatnot. I think he's just been out of that window. He's just missed those windows, but he's continued to produce in big matchups and on the big stage. And I would have just as much confidence giving him a ball and saying, go put it in the net as I would those other two. And I think that is something that goes ignored these days because of his arrogance, maybe because of his age and where he's at now and what club he plays for. But I want us to remember that before there was a Cristiano, there was an Ibrahimovic that was doing maybe just the same things that Ronaldo was doing and in the same fashion. And it also might be that his image isn't Ronaldo's image. Image plays a big part in it. And I don't think that takes away from Ronaldo's playing, but I do think that it gets more followers to pay more attention to him when you look the way you do, you act the way you do, and he's an appealing player to follow. Ronaldo is. I think also of who had it harder coming up through their career, and Ibrahimovic's story is dark. It's very, very hard beginnings. Not that Ronaldo that happened, but I don't think you can compare it to Ibrahimovic. Being Swedish born, but from culturally, ethnicity wise, different. And I think he had an upbringing that wasn't an easy one for him. I know that there weren't other options for him if he didn't make it as a player. I think he had very limited options, and this was his opportunity that he had to grasp, and he did it. And I think that plays into why he is the way he is. He has that arrogance that I believe was created in his younger years as a youth, not just as a youth player, just as a youth because of life experiences. But you could go back and look at what exactly he had to go through. But I think for him to get out of that and then come through and be, play for a team that isn't traditionally a powerhouse in Europe and still have such a big name in households and be such a big deal, is very interesting to me, and I think it's an important piece to throw into that argument. Now, if Ronaldo comes and plays in the MLS, will he have just as much success and just as much of the impact in the MLS as Ibra did? I don't know. I think Ibra has some arrogance that maybe Ronaldo can't even surpass, that he can actually back up with the way he plays and what he produces on the field. I don't know if Ronaldo could mimic that. Maybe he doesn't have as much success, or maybe he doesn't have that same type of influence in American culture, but it just seems like Ibra is doing what Ronaldo will do. And he's done that his whole career. Yeah. And it's impressive. It's impressive. And, he did score a bicycle kick from half field. and Ronaldo did it in the box.
Mamma mia, es verdad. Wow. Elia, do you remember that goal, right?
Of course, it's against England, of course.
Yeah.
That's one of the best goals. Wow, come on. Yeah.
So I just think he's a freak of nature, and stature-wise, I've never seen a player his size do what he does. Just his technical ability for his height, his flexibility for his height, his coordinate. I mean, it's a very bizarre player to see play and have so much success in producing. It's incredible to me.
Wow. Okay.
But,
yeah. Well, we have to finish the game. We are getting into the 90 minutes of this. So I think there is something like I completely see the point of Gabriel that in many aspects, Ibrahimovic is paving the way to the persona that kind of Cristiano Ronaldo has formed his career into. The guy athletic, the guy that it is proud, arrogant, doesn't back up and score goals and just set up people. And so there is something of, but it's still there. It's not like it happened centuries ago. And there is also something about what Gabriel said that I think, unfortunately, I know we are talking about hypotheses, but it is a reality that somehow the career of Ibrahimovic is a little bit more complicated, not only because of him, that is true, but also because of Sweden.
Yeah.
Portugal, Cristiano Ronaldo has helped Portugal, but Portugal is a place where everyone is only talking about soccer and is the main sport in there. And they won a European championship and two actually European championship. And it is the main thing there. And it is way more difficult, as Gabriel said from the beginning. And I'm not going into the cultural aspect, just in terms of soccer career. Mm-hmm. He goes to Ajax, and I do think that and that's why I came from the beginning to think of work of art. When I saw Ibrahimovic for the first time in maybe late 90s with Ajax, it was incredible. Mm-hmm. His ability to play with that height, I had never seen that. He was a playmaker for his team, also because of the Ajax school. He was playing as a forward, but he was already a 9.5. He was not a forward. He was just making everyone play. He was just incredible. Now, the way he is has contributed to the difficulty of his career. But I definitely agree with the ability to compare both and something not concrete that goes away with the career of Zlatan. I do think that Cristiano Ronaldo has proven to everyone that you can make it happen. In terms of efficiency, in terms of make it done, he's more consistent than Ibrahimovic. He always does it. He continued to do it in Juve. He's 35, and he will continue to do it because he has put everything into the production system. So there is something more poetic in the history of, and more dramatic in the career of Ibrahimovic. But because you two have been phenomenal, considering everything, considering how difficult it was to put together also this conversation, and you two are amazing. I'm gonna give a tie, not because I consider that they are tied in terms of how they are as players, but because you were phenomenal.
Vamos a ir a los penales, entonces.
No. You will have to continue with your life, and eventually, when this goes to YouTube, people will have the chance of decide which one is better or not. But you two were phenomenal, and I have put together more themes, and I can only thank you once again. So the Europe team contention is tied. Buffon, Boateng, Kanté, Iniesta, CR7 tie con Oblak, Varane, Busquets, Müller, and Ibrahimovic, and I think it's fair. It was a great dispute, debate, and I had a lot of more ideas than I had in the beginning. So
I enjoyed that.
Thank you. No, thank you. That was fun.
Yeah, it was.
You two are phenomenal. Thank you.
Thank you, Iñaki. Gracias.
Bye.